What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wednesday edition, a little earlier than usual, but it's going to be even sweeter. I'm Dave Gloeckner here with my man from so many different podcasts on the Heat Ratio Network. It's Mr. Old School, Dan Green. What's up, buddy?
Dave, it's good to be here. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to have you. You know, if you haven't checked him out, obviously Flyer and Ice is his number one, but Heat Ratio, what do we call it? Heat Ratio Live on Tuesday
Correct.
night. And many others. Dan, you've done the DFS podcast with Tony. What was that? DFS Heat?
It used to be the Fantasy Firebox.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yep.
And now I occasionally jump on with him when he's doing it for his other networks.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I do quick takes every Friday. They've been fun. And as you referenced with Flyer and Ice, there's not really much to talk about. So I started a concept called Flyer and Ice 2 minutes for roughing, really like shorts versus a long show. Because who wants to talk about the Flyers for an hour?
It's smart because I do the 2 minute drill sometimes, and I love the 2 minutes for roughing. That's great. And I'm seeing you got number 28 in the back. We might talk about him a little bit later tonight as some news of Flyers. And a little tribute to the G. We'll get our reactions to that. But Dan, as we start tonight, and we're Philly 4 for 4 plus a whole lot more. Got to talk Sixers. We've had some instant reactions to the Sixers. We've had some games since we were last on air. I know you were on air last night and had some reactions to the Nuggets game, obviously, but as well as that, the Brooklyn game. And it's two instances where we have now seen the Sixers lose. I don't want to say we thought and we felt like we were indestructible because, I know they were playing well, but we all knew in our back of heads, you're going to hit some speed bumps. But to hit them as hard as they did at Brooklyn and then lose that 19-point lead at Denver, to me, it did start to magnify some things that I am starting to worry about. And I want to get your take about maybe, do you have any concerns coming out of those two games, or is it, hey, it's just a learning curve?
I have concerns coming out of 3 games. Don't forget Orlando.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
We won that game, but they're a bad team. And it took us to overtime. As Philly sports fans, we're always championship when they win, doom and gloom when they lose. So I don't want to be a typical fan like that. But at the same time, when they lost, they looked obviously they looked awful to the Nets. And someone said to me, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was when we were you might have been with me at the show. I don't recall, but it was the live show at Steam. And one of the viewers commented, you have the 2 best players on the court. You're the favorite to win the championship every game. And, did Harden and Embiid look like the 2 best players on the court against Kyrie and Durant? No. Kyrie still has a lot of game. He's a quirky dude, but he's still quick as a cat, and he can stroke it. Yep. Harden, my concern with Harden pre-trade and now it's come to fruition is his brutal defense. And he honestly looks slow in offense. He's got the quick dribble, step back 3, but other than that, he's very slow to the hole, and he just throws up his hands and hopes for the foul half the time. So mainly my concern with them is their poor defense and their lack of depth, and a guy like Bones Highland killing them for the Nuggets the other night.
Yep,
the guy was like on fire.
Yep,
you got to recognize it, and they're leaving him wide open.
Yep, they didn't rotate.
Will Barton was getting wide open looks, nothing but twine, and they kept Jokic in check, but he didn't have to go off because they let other guys go off. So. And I'll let you start off talking about, we both have concerns about Doc.
Yeah, and I do. And, I can say, honestly, I'll piggyback your first point. My concerns over the last 3 games, and you're totally right, and even tonight is probably leading it a little bit of that as well. A little bit of Harden from the, you say quickness, and I agree with quickness. I also say explosiveness. He's got like no lift, no, juice sometimes on those drives. And I'm hoping it's just, the hamstring and him easing in, but I can't sign that guy to $250 million if that's all I got. But I am absolutely concerned with the lack of depth. You said it. The bench is horrific. And I just could not believe the other night, Georges Niang and Danny Green shot a combined 2 for 17. I think they were like 1 of 12 from 3. It was just bad. And if those are your top 2 guys off the bench and they can't, and it's not like they're not open, they're wide open in this offense and can't hit shots. And Niang, missing the 3 on the side of the backboard, then getting the ball and shooting a 2 when you're down 3. It's ugly.
The IQ wasn't there on that one.
It wasn't, but yeah, to Doc. Tonight we're up 13 and we lose the third quarter 31-13. It always feels like with Doc, it's his rotations. And I just fully believe he hasn't figured it out yet. And I'm not sure he ever will. This guy just doesn't know how to mix in and avoid these deep runs that teams can make at him. And, the classic story is a 20 points lead ain't safe with Doc. There's a 30. Like there's just I worry. I do worry about Doc Rivers. I think he's an average coach, to be honest with you. Average is okay for some teams, but not one with championship aspirations. The guy has questionable decisions when it comes to challenges. His play calling late in games. Joel Embiid had 1 shot in the last 2.5 minutes last game. Niang had 4. I do have concerns with Doc Rivers.
I mean, I'll cut Doc obviously some slack because this bench is so horrific. He like you said, he's figuring things out. I mean, what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
You almost have to hope, and I said this on our live show, you almost have to hope that Shake becomes the X factor, because I still think that kid has ability, but he's got, with his injuries and I think falling out of Doc's favor, he loses his mojo and rhythm, and you're just not getting a consistent bench player with him. And then he falls in love with Niang and Danny Green gets too many minutes at times. I mean, the guy's got, I said this last year and I was getting ridiculed for it, but I couldn't believe he's got lead legs. He's got nothing left in his legs. He's the quintessential athlete that has lost it.
Yep.
He can hit a wide open corner jumper occasionally, of course, but like you said, he was missing free throw jumpers, wide open shots. It's concerning. And here's a point that really upset me. I actually wanted Doc to take Embiid out of the game. Yesterday, there was a stretch where Embiid was exhausted. You could just see he couldn't get up and down the court, and Jokic was out of the game. That's when you take Embiid out and put Jordan in the game. Like, what are you waiting for?
Yep.
I mean, he was exhausted, and that always goes to sometimes the end of the game with Embiid.
Yes,
he's exhausted, and as great as he is, and I wouldn't get rid of him for anything, he can be like an out of control puppet when he's like fatigued, when he's just clumsy at times. As graceful and as skilled as he is, he can be equally as clumsy at times. And he's gonna hurt himself with these ridiculous falls he's taking.
Yeah, that was
every single game. It's like you hold your breath.
Yeah, it's interesting with Embiid, and they were off a back-to-back too. I was surprised they played both. I thought he was not going to play in Orlando, and I get there's a lot of things that they need to do to iron these things out, and that's why they're getting the minutes. And it's crunch time, it's seeding time, so I'm good playing the minutes. I'll never say, because back in the day, old school, there was no load management, there was no resting. You just played, and these guys can play. They're athletes. But I was surprised he got that many minutes, and you're right. He was puffing, and when he puffs, he starts catching the ball out near the three-point line in his post-ups, and it's just ineffective. But your point about Shake is really interesting because I'm with you. I read a good article about Shake the other day, and he's trying to it is more mental than physical with him is what he's saying. He's just not sure what he's supposed to do, where he's supposed to be. He's trying to get in this groove. He has 3 minutes tonight.
Yeah.
3 minutes. It's like, what groove can you get in? And I think he is a guy that can be that microwave off the bench. I think he is a guy that can be your way better than Danny Green. They get fooled with this Danny Green. He's a defensive player. He's smart. You know what? He can stay on the bench then, and he can teach them from there because he's a liability in my opinion. I want to see more Shake than more Danny. So I think you raised a great point there, and that goes back to Doc. Look, I know Cork Motts is what he is. but we did sign him to like a 3-year deal with decent money to come off the bench and be a sniper. Can't be a sniper if you don't even get 1 minute. Guy's been the DMP coach's decision for like, I don't know, 4 straight games. I just.
Yeah. You're sending the wrong message, especially a game against Orlando is when you got to play him a lot.
I think so. It's a good matchup. They played 4 or 5 guards out. And if you watch when Denver did hurt us, and you're right, it was when Jokic was out, obviously. And they beat us with the 5-guard matchup. And that's when you might need to use a little Furkan. But, with that being said, we did watch the Denver game, and we did get a glimpse of what Embiid is and what Jokic is. And there's always this debate. Last year, I was on the Embiid side because, to me, if you finish number 1 in the league with the best record, which the Sixers were in the East last year, and have similar numbers, you're the MVP. But Jokic won it last year, and his numbers were crazy, and I get it. This award has turned into much of a, sabermetrics type award. Everybody loves the analytics. This year, he's probably got the analytics again. And now his record's even better and closer to Embiid's. But after watching that game, you can't tell me with any eye test. We were guarding Jokic with Harden. They were doubling Embiid. I don't know what else I can say to people that think Jokic is MVP, but it's clear as day to me. I'll even take the glasses off. It's Embiid. Don't you agree he's the better player?
I do, but hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, it almost seemed like Jokic was disinterested to some extent, but offensively, he's a terrific ball handler for a guy his size. He shoots well. He's a terrific passer. He averages 3 to 4 more rebounds per game than Embiid. He's playing without Porter and Murray.
Yeah.
And he averages like 25 points a game. He's a hell of an offensive player. Where I think Joel Embiid separates himself by miles is defensively. There's not even a comparison. Yeah. So if you want to give me, I'll accept an argument where Jokic you could argue he's a better offensive player than Embiid all around with his ball skills, his passing. He's a solid shooter. He's not as quick as Embiid, and Embiid when he's on fire but they both have high IQs. But the defense is what makes Embiid so superior. And I even take it to another level. If Embiid wanted to play Gobert's game and just be a rim protector, it would be Embiid can come out and guard quick players on the other team, and he can be a rim protector.
He can.
He's a dominant defensive player, and that's the separation. Offensively, you can have your arguments perhaps, and I still would lean towards Embiid, but I wouldn't destroy someone who said Jokic has got a better offensive game. But the complete package is not even close.
Yeah, those are all good points, and I do look at it, in that big arena that you do. And he had a huge block in that game, Embiid late in the game.
Off the backboard,
I think it was Morris that took it to the rim. I'm trying to remember, but either way, huge block that turned into a transition basket for the Sixers late in the game, and that's something Jokic can't do.
No.
Now I am. I will say I am an analytics guy, and Jokic is sitting there number 1 in PER. Player evaluation rating, and he is having a year that he's putting up numbers that are quite historic. And what you said about the lack of some of the weapons he has, all true. So Embiid, to me, 1,000% the better player. There's probably still an argument for an MVP, and it's an odd way to look at it, but it's very true that he's valuable. Jokic is so valuable with what he has and what they're doing, and sitting 5th in the West and us sitting 3rd or 4th in the East now. It's close. It's going to come down to a razor thin vote, but in the end, I think because Jokic won it last year, I'm feeling like Embiid will get a little more sympathy votes this year.
And Embiid should have won it last year.
I thought so.
If or not, the game's missed.
Mm-hmm.
That was a statement vote. I think the writers probably all sat in the room hypothetically and said he's the better player, but he missed too many games. We can't justify it.
I think you're right. It was I think it was 20, and he missed a handful this year. And some people are going to say
early though. That was early,
and it was COVID. Like,
yeah,
that's tough. I mean, you can't blame him for, something that went throughout the league, but it was just cool seeing them play together, and you could see the love they kind of shared for each
they have
other.
a mutual respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Like, you remember when he played Drummond, when Drummond was in his prime, how much they hated each other? You could just tell it.
it was in his head.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I had a train of thought that I just completely lost.
No, that's all right. We were just saying because, playing someone when you have that mutual respect for,
Oh, right.
they know when great sees great. And I think Embiid even said it after the game. He's like, he's great. And I welcome that challenge. And it's a shame you only get to see that 2 times a year because the natural centers in the league, they're gone. So his matchups against guys like that are few and far between. But when he does get it, I think he shows up, and Embiid has gotten better and more mature over the years in those matchups. When he was in Drummond's head, he would tell him about it all day. Now you can just see him like giving that mutual respect to his partners that are as good.
Yeah. Yeah. The thought that I lost that I got back. Now, I've always hated the sitting out of players that we just referenced.
Oh yeah.
I've been a proponent. Just put them on a minutes restriction. If that's what you're going to do, put them in a minutes restriction. And if God forbid the game gets out of hand or goes sideways and you didn't anticipate it, he's available to play. Yeah, you didn't expect them to play that many minutes, but put him on a minutes restriction. Don't sit the guy completely out of a game. I've never liked that. And that's to me how I would handle resting my key players. They would dress, they just wouldn't play 35, 40 minutes.
I thank you for that. I absolutely hate. I think, if you're healthy and you play 82 games, you should. That's what you're paid for. I don't pay you $30 million to play 2 out of every 3 games. And here's the other point. And I saw it with Golden State. I've seen it with others. I went to the Sixers-Lakers game this year. I was fortunate enough to do that. And in that game, I went to Xfinity Live probably about an hour early. Something nothing crazy. And I see a dad and a son. And the son has a LeBron James jersey on. Not thrilled about it. The announcer in the Xfinity Live announces, news just in, LeBron James is out tonight. And the son almost cries. And the dad just rubs him and said, I'm sorry, buddy. We'll come back next year. Next year. Not tomorrow, not the next time he comes to town, because the next time he comes to town is next year. I can't imagine how much money they spent, all the emotions that went in to see LeBron James play. But he sat out because his pinky was hurt that night. I'm with you, Dan. Like, we're sending a bad message. Just play him a little bit. They just want to see something.
And along the lines, and this is not quite the same as a guy sitting out. Do you remember? And I know I'm old school, but when it comes to legendary players, everyone who loves sports should be somewhat of a historian. Would you agree? Do you remember the famous line from Joe Dimaggio? A reporter asked him, "Why do you play so hard every single minute of every single game?" And his answer was, because there could be a kid in the stands that has never seen me play before.
And there will be.
And that's the kind of attitude you have to have as an athlete. There's got to be someone in the stands that hasn't seen me play before, or at the very least live. In today's world with television and all, you're going to see him play. Joe D played in an era where the TV wasn't even around. But, that's the kind of attitude you want to see out of your athletes.
Yeah, that's why we have a Keith Yandel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in a weird, yeah. No, I give him credit for having a strong body, but
no,
oh my God. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely right. And that's always driven me nuts about baseball. That's driven me nuts. And I think analytics drove us to that point. I think you have to be human. You have to be able to have an eye test at times and not just trust numbers and understand when people need breaks, because if they're totally down, like pitchers, right? They throw on their off days. They throw a bullpen session. And then even when you get later in the year, they're like, my bullpen session, you can give me 1 or 2 innings tonight. I'm ready. Like, that's what basketball players should be. I agree with you. It's tough to watch. And now what's tough to watch is it looks like the Sixers, what do you got, up 4?
The last I saw, yeah, they're showing I don't know, yeah, everyone with streaming and cable,
Yeah,
everyone's got different time. It's 114 to 110
that's
with
what I got.
16.8.
Yep. All right, we're on the same paradigm there and same trajectory. We'll see how they fare tonight. But let me ask you this before we get off the Sixers talk. There's been a lot of talk recently about coming out of that Brooklyn game. The Sixers need to avoid the 1 or 2 seed. Do you buy into that, or do you buy into just play and figure out and you land where you land?
Listen, yeah, you land where you land. You have to. I mean, at this stage of the game, I mean, if they don't get their, at first we're like, oh my God, look at the instant chemistry they have with Hard. But
Yep.
maybe there was something to the fact they didn't play great teams, and now there's maybe they were playing the early stages of any kind of trade or any kind of newcomer is the adrenaline factor. Well, maybe now that the adrenaline's run off, maybe the chemistry isn't quite there yet, and the things we've referenced, but it's there's a lot of teams that concern me. A couple shows ago, I was like, nobody. I don't know if it was you or me. We were talking about how the Bucks had an easy path because the Sixers lost to the Hawks. But yeah, now they concern me. Now they concern me. The Celtics now concern me. They're on fire.
Yep.
Obviously the Nets can. The Heat. There's four legit teams that are concerned.
I agree, and you're gonna have to beat 1 or 2 of them to get to the NBA Finals. So when you play them in the first round or the second round, doesn't matter to me. I will say this much: you play the games to win, and you just keep. And where you fall, you fall. If for some reason you're there in game 82, and you really see that, with a loss, you end up 3, and you end up against Cleveland, I do play for that. But I don't. I wait until game 82. I do. That's my. I don't. There's too much. They're packed too tight now. You can't predict. But I will give you this: the Phillies did that once.
Yeah, I remember vividly. They wanted to get their most wins.
They ended up with St. Louis Cardinals, a wild card team that was very, very dangerous, and they lost in 5 games to them. And the Cardinals won the World Series. And they lost the last 2 games to the Braves because, again, they didn't. It might have knocked out the Braves. It was something like that. But
no, I think it was the other way around. They won games against the Braves because they wanted to have the most. They wanted to have the most wins in franchise history that year. And by beating the Braves to get those wins, they eliminated the Braves and let the hot Cardinals sneak in.
That was it. And so you just play the games how you're supposed to play. And I believe the sports gods figure it out. But if you're in game 82, I could understand that. We'll see.
But listen, we started with Washington and Atlanta last year, for crying out loud.
Oh, I know.
You couldn't have asked for better.
You couldn't.
It goes back to what we're talking about. Obviously Simmons was dreadful. Tobias Harris was dreadful, but Doc was dreadful.
He was.
And is there a guarantee that you still don't know which Sixers team is going to show up?
You don't.
And they're struggling against a Cleveland team that they're superior than. They struggled against an Orlando team that had no business being in the gym with them. And something's amiss right now, and hopefully they will figure it out. But it's hard to figure out when this is their team. They literally have no bench. And unless Shake is given the opportunity that we referenced earlier, I just don't know where the energy is going to come from, where the Vinny Johnson type energy is going to come from.
I agree. And I mean, I will admit this I don't want to see Brooklyn.
No.
I just don't. And I mean, I don't care if it is, eventually we're going to have to see them and we're going to have to face that noise. They looked a lot more motivated than we were. And I don't mind playing them Eastern Conference Finals and bringing it. We'll have home court advantage. But, I want to see them get worn down a little bit. I don't want to see them right out of the gates all motivated. So it is a team I do want to avoid early because I just didn't like our energy against them last game. Other than that, I'll play him any other time.
First round, and this team, based on what they did, it's NBA Finals or bust. So
I agree.
They if they lose in a first round, you can't come up with excuses. First round loss is a first round loss. So,
and I will tell you now, if it's a first round loss, Mike D'Antoni will be here next year. But just saying. But with that said, let's move on to our next subject tonight, and that's the NFL. Eagles making one big move so far. I mean, you could say Jason Kelce, him coming back for one more year was kind of a yes, kind of, we were all pumped up to hear that. It was a 1-year deal. I think he sees the potential this team may have going into this year, and I'm glad he re-upped, and then he sang the national anthem the other night. I didn't. I'm tone deaf, so I don't know how good it was, but
be thankful. Listen. The guy wasn't doing it because he thought he was the next John Cicada. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
He did it for a charity. He did it for a great cause.
Right.
And you could tell the guy was scared to death. I mean, listen.
He wasn't Carl Lewis, though, right?
Have you ever sang karaoke in front of anyone?
I have, actually.
Isn't it terrifying?
I rap instead.
All right. Right. You can talk it out.
Sing. I'm like, all right, I'll just talk.
Yeah. It. So listen, not only was he in front of 20,000 people, he was in front of the national televised audience. So he knows the whole world was looking at him. So I give him total credit. Good. And that to me adds to his lore, to be honest with you.
It does. It really does. Now, that was big news, right? And that came Friday. But the biggest news so far, the free agency period, I mean, the signings start tomorrow, I think, officially, is the news that we got someone coming home. And that's, call him a linebacker, call him an edge rusher, whatever you want to call him. Hassan Reddick, Camden's own, Temple's born, is coming to Philly. And he's pumped up. And I do think if you look at this team, we know we needed help on defense. And I do think he'll be primarily an edge rusher. But the DNs last year were terrible. Josh Sweat, he gave good effort. I think he ended up with 11 sacks or something right in that, vicinity. But it was like 2 here, none, 2, none. Like, it was just Josh Sweat was up and down, and there was no one else. So they did really need to address the outside edge rusher position. And I think when you look at Reddick, I think he has the second most sacks in the past 3 seasons.
I think the third most. Yeah.
Third most? Yeah. And so you're getting a guy that did have double digits last year as well, and on a Carolina team that was not so good. So I'm excited about the signing. I mean, I wish it was a linebacker, but I'll take an edge rusher, absolutely.
No, I thought it was a terrific signing. And to be quite honest with you, I remember the Reddick draft vividly. I think he was taken just before we drafted Barnett. Am I correct?
And he was Arizona, right?
Yeah, he went to the Cardinals.
Yep.
And he was a single-digit player for Temple. Temple had that great year with Matakevich was the linebacker, right? And
I think Matt Rule was still the coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Was it Matakevich?
Yes,
the linebacker.
The white dude.
Yeah. So, and he looked like he was on the verge of being a disappointment, right?
Yeah.
And then he had a great final year with the Cardinals, a great year with Carolina, and I think he's legit now. I think he's gained his confidence. He understands the NFL, and he's a quick cat with strength.
Yeah, and how you've seen the stories before to come home, right? I just think that brings that extra motivation. What is he? 27, I think, something right in that range. He's right in his prime, and I think it is a massive signing for the Eagles. I would give it for now, and I understand, the money and everything. I try and take that out. I would actually give it an A-.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, you just discussed a position of need.
Yep.
So, and there's
you got the best on the board.
No ifs, ands, or bust. I mean, you had an older Chandler Jones that was productive, but he's older.
Oh, well, you got Randy Gregory that you would have to give $70 million to, like,
and of terrible character.
Yes, correct.
So I think everything you said hit the nail on the head. He's a good kid. He's a local kid. He's going to be a motivated kid, and he's a talented kid. So there's He deserved what he got. I don't think they overpaid at all for him.
Yeah, I agree. So looking at the, they still need to do a few things. I mean, they're not just going to stop with Reddick. I know there's a couple they tendered Herbert. There's some other things that are going on behind the scenes, but there's still some decent value out there in the free agent market. I'm going to tell you right now, I think it needs to all go defense. And I'll say this much. After watching what happened in the NFL over the first few days in the wide receiver market, I was never a fan of spending for a wide receiver, and never more so am I not a fan. The draft yields 10 to 12 guys that I think could make an impact next year in the first 2 rounds. I have no interest. And now that we're not going to trade, Watson doesn't want to come here, and we can talk about that in a second. But I think we just got to keep loading up on defense. I think we can fit in another, I've heard of Avonte Maddox talk. I've heard some other things. I would like to see another D-back and probably another D-end.
As far as free agents go?
Yeah, I would.
How about one of these linebackers that's available?
Well, I'm good there too, right? Because it all depends where you're going to go in the draft, because I think there's potential that Devin Lloyd's going to be there. And I absolutely am in love with Devin Lloyd. I would take him at pick 15 and run to the.
His stock might have dropped because of his slow 40.
Yep.
But
right.
Who cares?
Who cares? He jumped up to 9 and then jumped back down because of his 40. Okay.
Right. That could be a blessing for us.
Yeah.
It's because it's all about tape and what you do on the field that counts.
Right.
But a guy that intrigues me is Leighton Vanderesch.
It's interesting. I've always loved Leighton. I think he's out of Boise. And
it was the interesting thing is they almost settled on him after we stole Goddard from Dallas. You remember?
Yes, I do remember.
And then I was before Goddard. I wanted Vanderesch.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wouldn't have been wrong. I think both are probably very equal in their play so far to this date. If Vanderesch doesn't have these neck and other issues, he probably exceeds what Goddard is right now. So I think there's risk in it, obviously, with his injury history, but a lot of potential for reward. He's not what's the other guy there? Sean Lee. He's not Sean Lee. That guy was
very frail.
And just deteriorating. These have been a little bit more freak injuries and not to areas that I have as much concern. Vanderesch is
he's a stud when healthy.
Yeah, no, and the problem is though, as you know, Howie ain't going to do it. He just won't spend for a linebacker, and I don't. It frustrates us, right? Usually, I'm
trying to think of the last. Was it Nigel Bradham? Was the last significant?
That sounds right. I'm trying to think.
Solid linebacker that they signed.
Yeah, I mean, I liked back in the day Carlos Emmons.
Yeah.
Was after that, so yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we like Jordan Hicks, but he was out of the draft, and then he had a down year and went. So I think you're right. I think Bradham's the last real significant.
And it's just been piecemeal type of guys.
And I'm trying to remember if Bradham was a chip. No, I think he was Howie. I do think Howie did do that.
No, he was that because Schwartz wanted him.
Yeah, so it was right when Howie got back. Yeah.
Schwartz came from Buffalo.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But, hey, looking at the NFL trajectory right now, you got to say there's some crazy things going on, but nothing more crazy than Chris Kirk getting $18+ million a year to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Peterson is making a splash. I thought the Jaguars already had some decent wide receivers in place. They had Marvin Jones last year. Laquan Treadwell actually showed up. They had some other pieces that were okay. DJ Chark. And they go out and spend this money on a third receiver, a guy that maybe can play slot for you. He can't play the outside at 5'2". I know he might be 7, but this is mind blowing. And what it does is it just changes the wide receiver conundrum. I liked Allen Robinson. I thought he would be a guy that could potentially fit for the right price. I thought he could be an Alshon Jeffrey, a 1-year type of guy, prove it deal. I don't think so now. So it's been crazy out there. Any other things like pop that you've seen so far?
No, that if you had led with the question, Dan, what was the thing that blew your mind? It would have been no, it's okay. Yeah. It was definitely Kirk. And I agree with you. I was disappointed not just, I think we could have offered the same money that Chark got from Detroit. So I don't know if I don't know what that was all about. Like, we couldn't have offered Chark 1 year and 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think Robinson's projected value is going to be like 16 million a year.
It is.
So I don't, even in a 1 year, 16 million, I don't see how he's doing that. And unfortunately, I think he does it via the draft, like you were saying, one of the picks. But I don't you see a Zach Pascal type guy as the
I'm okay.
They'll settle with a guy like that. I was, before our show started, I was doing a little reading, and it looks like now the Juju train has stopped. He's might not be coming here.
I don't want him.
Yeah, we had that discussion on He Ratio Live last night, and I was the, I guess, the lone wolf as far as not being enthralled by him.
Oh, I'm not at all.
He's essentially a high volume possession receiver with not a lot of speed.
I agree 100%. At best, you can't put him outside. He can't beat anybody.
Mm-mm.
He's like your I'm trying to remember a guy that we had that could only, couldn't separate himself. Not as far back as Torrance Small, but
Nate Brown.
Yeah, God. But yeah, I mean, similar. There was a guy recently that we were like, oh, he'd be great if he was still speedy, but Juju would disappoint.
Oh, you're probably Torrey Smith, right?
So I'm thinking Torrey, but there might have been one other one, and it's a little bit of Greg Ward, but maybe taller, maybe a slight tad faster. But yeah, there was someone else that I was like, I loved, but yeah, Juju would disappoint us. He's not worth the money, and quite honestly, he's not worth the drama. I know that's hard to. I don't need anybody dancing on anybody's logos, doing TikTok stuff. It's not the culture I want around here. Juju, you screwed yourself, and I don't want it. But
do you take a flyer on another local kid, Will Fuller?
He's fast.
But he's a guy that's always often injured. But if he can stay healthy, he's fast.
So if I had Deshaun Watson, yes. I have Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, no. I'm glad you brought that up, because everything is predicated. Maybe that's why Chark, and not that guy. Well, actually, look what Detroit's building offensively at the very least.
Yeah.
So their receiving core, they got Hawkinson, they added Chark. That's what receivers might be thinking about. Do I want to play for a quarterback that has no arm strength?
They're not going to get value. Like,
and
that's here 1 year.
And that's right. And that's where when I brought that up, the guys last night, and I guess I give him credit. Maybe that's why Schuster would be valuable here, because if he's a underneath kind of guy, that's the lane that Hurts lives in.
It is, except the fact of the matter is he can't really throw over the line, top of the line. He lives.
Yeah. So it sounds like you and I are on the same page with Hurts. In fact, I think you and I were texting at a game once. I was at the San Francisco game.
Yeah.
And I was floored with the lack of arm strength seeing it live.
His interception at halftime of that game, they win that game.
He had guys. He had Quez Watkins and Rager, and Rager probably would have dropped it, but there was a couple of sequences where Rager and Quez were so far ahead of the D-backs, and they're like waiting for the ball. And the D-backs were catching up because he doesn't have any arm strength.
Yeah, I even think Quez caught one in that game that he had to wait forever for that would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he got tackled at like 10 or 20. Mm-hmm. And that's when he threw the interception at half or something crazy. We should have gone it was bad. And I am absolutely not on the Hurts train. I think the kid has heart, and I think he has leadership. I think he has a huge lack of arm strength, but even worse, he has a lack of vision. And I just think that doesn't change. Those two things you can't coach. Can we win with him? Absolutely. You build a team around him. You might get lucky. You're not going to win Super Bowl with him, but can we? We already saw we can get the playoffs with him with last place schedule, by the way. But so that does bring us to the next point of the Eagles before we transition to the next team. The news out there today, and not today, but over the last week, is Deshaun Watson's cleared of his charges. He's meeting with a lot of teams, but the Eagles aren't a team that he's meeting with. He's meeting with the Panthers. He's meeting with the Saints, 2 teams in NFC South. And then recent news is the Falcons potentially, which makes sense to me. I talked about it on a betting for breakfast recently that Falcons would make sense. Dirty South, not too far from his Clemson roots. And then even the Browns. But the Eagles just don't pop up. And to me, that's because he won't waive his no trade clause to come here. I do think they've tapped the lines and tried. What's your thoughts?
It's funny. I heard Barrett Brooks on the radio driving to work today.
Okay.
And he came on saying it's going to be a 90% done deal. He comes to the Eagles. You're going to hear it Friday. And he was saying the Eagles have 3 number ones to give them. They have a number 1 next year to give them. He goes, I'd even give them Mulata. And I was like,
yeah.
what?
No.
But first, yeah,
no.
Right. It's like, so you're going to give up all these guys, and then you're going to get a quarterback that's going to get killed because you gave away your left tackle. So first of all, he's never been my favorite analyst on television by any means. I don't know what the hell he was talking about because most everyone else says there's less than 10% chance that he comes here. But let's say he waived his no trade clause and the Eagles were one of the teams that he would be willing to go to. Obviously, then now the Eagles have a bidding war because there are teams that are interested. I have trouble giving up all this capital for a guy who clearly has low character. I am of the belief if so many people say something, one of them's telling the truth. And that's all that matters to me, that one, Yep. So, and he's not a good character. And let's face it. The NFL is full of guys that aren't, going to church every Sunday, but there's also plenty of guys that do. And I don't know how many guys would really want a guy like that in their locker room. Is it a slam dunk because he comes here? He's going to be welcomed with open arms in the locker room. I don't know. But it's for me, I don't know if I could thoroughly separate my team from that guy's character. I wouldn't turn the TV off. I wouldn't stop rooting for my team, but it'd be a hard route. So it's a shame. It's a shame that we want to move on from Jalen so bad that we're considering a guy like this.
Yeah,
but it's a hard no for me at this stage of the game.
I love where your mind's at because Mark Drumheller and I have talked a lot about this, and Hurts ain't the guy. And I think you're in with us. I think Tony's not, but that's okay. Everybody has their own opinion. And we're all in on the Watson train. Now, where I'm not in on the Watson train, where I'm steering away now, for one, because he's potentially been cleared of these things. And now you've brought in these 4 or 5 teams. The price goes up. I have no interest in paying 3, even 4 first-round picks for a guy like Deshaun Watson. I just don't. We have so much more need. We're not the Los Angeles Rams. We're not sitting here today one step away from a Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson does not bring us a Super Bowl next year. And there's just too many things, in my opinion, that need to happen for the Eagles to be good soon. I can't give up even 3. I can't give up my lot. I need to keep 2 of my 3 this year. If you get me to a situation that I only had to give up 1 of my ones this year, 1 next year, and 1 in 24, we might talk. But I know that's not enough. Not enough against these teams that are going to be way too desperate. For me, the price of Watson is well out of my range. And with that said, I really do. I look deep at potentially getting a quarterback in the 2nd round. And I just move on. I build this team with the 3 first round. This is what we did. This is why we traded Carson. This is why we moved out of the 4th pick and still got our guy with Devontae Smith. This is why we did these things, to build this team. Look, Deshaun, you won a college championship. You were also up 28-3 against the Chiefs and choked. People said he had nothing around him. He had DeAndre Hopkins. He's had Will Fuller. He's had some good offenses. He's had Bill O'Brien, which is actually a decent offensive mind. He hasn't won anything. He's not an automatic stuff it in. He's getting us somewhere. Would I love him for the right price? No doubt about it. I'm not paying these price tags now. And you're concerned about his character. Very valid. I can let some of that go. We've had our guys, but I can't pay for that and have that character behind.
Well, that's my issue.
Yeah.
It's more like I've got to root for this guy, and we gave up all this capital for him. It's like it's just like it's a kick in the groin, especially if they struggle. Because and that could be another thing. Maybe he also sees what you and I ultimately see. If I if I waive my trade clause to come to the Eagles, am I going to win with the Eagles? They're going to have to give a lot up to get me.
Yeah.
And what kind of weaponry do I now have?
Well, I'm not sure he's ready for this type of pressure. I mean,
right? Because because it's going to be. He knows the media outlet here. Yeah. It's going to be nonstop.
He's from the South. He played in Houston. It's not that tough. It's tough here. Yeah. I'm not saying he's not ready for tough, but if you're waiving your no trade clause, if you're not waiving your no trade clause to come here, it tells me you're not ready for tough. If you're not ready for tough, I'm not ready for you. And I think we can find some other answers. And I do think at that point, we build this team around Hurts. You draft someone similar to Hurts in the second or third round, trade away Minshew, build around the second, third rounder, just like you did with Hurts, came in with Wentz, and we find out what happens. Give them a little healthy competition. Thing is, the quarterback class next year is going to be fantastic. I just don't think we'll be bad enough to really be able to get one of those guys. I don't think we'll have enough capital to get one of those guys. So if you get some slips this year, I wouldn't mind potentially just, if I'm sitting there in the second round and a guy like the North Carolina guy, Howell, right?
Sam Howell.
Yeah. If he's sitting there second round, I think I can do it. I think that's a guy that was projected. If he came out last year, he was projected top 10. I think I can take a top 10 talent in the second round and just maybe see what happens.
It's funny. I have to bring up, I don't know if you saw the segment of our show last night, and they all thought I was great. After you heard all the Pickett talk, did you measure your hand? You didn't measure?
No,
you
didn't. No, that doesn't matter to me.
I'm joking, but I'm just saying I measured my hand is what I'm saying.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, my hand's bigger than Kenny Pickett's.
Oh no. Look at you. Yeah. I mean, it's so weird the world we live in, right?
I mean, Michael Vick had the same exact hand size as Pickett, and the guy had an absolute howitzer for an arm.
The problem I have with Pickett is not the hand size, it's the age. That's the problem I have with him. If you're going to bring Pickett in, he needs to start right away. He's 24 already. You're talking about he needs to start in his year 25. Like it's almost, I think he's 24. I think that's what I read. Huh. It's 23 or he's about to turn 24. That's my biggest concern. Like he needs to go to a team like Joe Burrow he was a little older.
Even Carson was older.
Who's that?
Carson was older too.
He was because he had 2 injured years at North Dakota State. Yeah.
And who was the quarterback? Was it Henke or Wenke from Florida State? It was like 26, 27.
Yeah, that was my boy. But yeah, I mean, and he had to start for Carolina right away. He only played a few years. He had some success, but if you were drafting him, it had to be a team that was going to use him right away. That was the point. What is, it's funny that we say Kenny Pickett age. I just got to check now because it's on my mind. I felt like he was 23 now, so he'll be 24 this June. He'll be 24 when he snaps the ball this year. Yeah, I mean, you're talking guys. There's probably 5 starting quarterbacks that are still younger than that already.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is do you really think Howie's going to use all 3 number 1 picks this year?
I don't.
So he might trade one next year. So we could have possibly 2 number 2s next year for the quarterback class you're referencing.
You could. I think I see us moving out of either 15 or 16 and keeping 19. I think that's where it's going to land. He's going to eye up 2 guys. One of them drops to 15, 16. He takes them and drops out. And I think he's going to look at Karlaftis, the DN from Iowa. He might. I mean, there's a couple other guys, but I think those are the kind of guys he's going to look at. We'll see. I don't think you've seen his track record. He's not going to draft a linebacker. He's probably not going to draft a safety or D-back.
Nope. And that safety from Notre Dame would be a.
Well, I think I've seen him go as high as 2 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he does. I think that's
okay. One of the mocks I saw, he was in that territory in the teens, so that'd be interesting.
All right, so let's transition out of the Eagles and let's look over quickly at the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm wearing my Philly pride tonight. The news it's so cool, and it broke late last week that we are going to have an MLB season. And Dan, I know you're Philly 444 plus more, and there's a lot going on with the Phillies right now. They were second in the NL East last year. I think it was a little bit of a fraudulent second. I know they had the MVP and the runner-up in Cy Young, but outside of that, they didn't have a lot else that helped them. And there were glaring holes. And the biggest weaknesses, to me, definitely were bullpen and outfield. And I think they've started to shore that up with the free agent signings. I want to get your opinion of what you've seen so far with their moves in free agency.
Obviously the Schwarber news today was important. I mean, we had to get Castellanos, Schwarber, or Bryant in here. We had to get one of those guys. And Bryant signed a mega deal with Colorado today.
Yeah, so, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be
we're hoping for a really big news, right?
Yeah.
But you call me crazy. The under the radar signing, because it happened just before the lockout started. I love Johan Camargo.
It's a good point. That was right before it. And
that kid had 27 home runs like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, does he find? But what is he?
He's a utility guy.
I know, but I mean, for the Phillies, is he a bench guy? The guy plays 1 hour every 3 games.
Yeah, well, that's ultimately what he's going to be. But if let's say we go north with Didi and Segura, of course, is going to be our second baseman. Both those guys are injury prone.
Oh yeah.
So now Camargo, he might get a stretch of games due to injury, and I think he will surprise some people, and I'm hoping, he gets. Listen, he was on a team with so much depth, organizational depth, that he slipped through after that one good year he had. Injuries, he felt that Braves team, man, they're just stacked everywhere.
They are. But they're losing Freddie, which is going to be a big hit for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a locker room hit, but
yeah,
they quickly replaced him.
And Acuna's back.
I mean, they won a World Series without Acuna. Yeah, can you believe that? So,
but have you liked the Brad Hand and Drew's Familia signings? Because I do think, listen, Familia, I have a bunch of Mets fans that are my friends, and they hated him. They hated him. But when he finally actually performed last year in a role that wasn't high pressure, high volume, and I don't think they'll need to put him in that situation. I think they'll let Hand take the duties here. I think both them together do kind of combine for a pretty good back end.
No, it's absolutely worth the thrift store purchase.
Yeah.
Because both of them once were dominant pitchers.
Right.
And like you said, they're not. I think Knebel's going to be the closer to start the year.
I think you're right.
So I don't know. Like, so that validates kind of your point as far as the pressure being off those two.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I listen, their bullpen was terrible last year, but it was epically terrible the year before that.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually like, guys like Coonrod on this team.
Sam.
Yeah, we got guys that can throw a ball through a wall.
Yep.
But they could also completely miss the wall.
Yeah.
So we've got flamethrowers in the bullpen.
Yeah, and Pineda was the guy we got before the lockout too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, and I'm drawing a complete blank. Alvarado.
Oh yeah, he was
another guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if he could ever learn the strike zone, I could put it this way: could you? There's not a single comfortable left-handed hitter in baseball that wants to be in the box against that guy.
No. And you throw Hand in the miss, who had 21 saves last year. You have 2 lefties that are situational.
Yeah. And now Hand doesn't throw nearly as hard as he used to.
No, but he's got this angle.
Yeah,
and
he's got a nasty slider when he's on.
Yeah.
Listen, he had a bounce back end of the year last year.
He did.
He was horrible at the beginning, and he kind of got his groove back towards the end of the year. And hopefully that's what we're counting on. And again, he doesn't have to be the guy that he used to be.
Yeah.
Low pressure. Maybe change of scenery will help.
Yeah.
Same thing with Familia.
So that I think the bullpen, like, I hate to say solidified because to me bullpens are always they're year by year, and these guys could show up. Like the year Ryan Madsen had for us, we didn't expect. No. The year, who else was awesome? I see his face throwing the slider from the Indians. Chad.
Oh, for the no. For Steve, the lefty or
the righty. He Chad. Oh,
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, it's going to come to me in a second, and it'll come to you. The lefty that year was
J.C. Romero.
Yeah,
and a little bit of Steve Fry, right?
Yeah, yes, Steve Fry. I remember him. Chad, Phillies. All right, but it'll come to us. But I think this bullpen that year that we had, such a good bullpen. I didn't think we were predicted to have such a good bullpen. At least we have options this year, and I think the options this year are going to help them. Chad Durbin.
Yeah.
But going to what I thought was the other glaring weakness, it's center field / left field. Give him a catch all you want. It was over. And, whether he's worn down, torn down, or whatever you want to say about him, he had a streak there last year. He was hitting bombs. And it was great. But more than not, he was a liability.
He looked like a Danny Green in left field.
And there you go. Danny, I like that comparison.
He lost his legs.
I like McCutchen even more than Danny. But, same thing.
McCutchen is a great guy. There's no doubt about it.
Great guy. But they needed to make a move. And now here comes Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber had a 3.1 WAR, by the way, last year, for those of you that are analytically enabled. And, it was very effective. And he's coming into year 29. Maybe it's a year or two past that magic 27 year for baseball players. But I don't think the deal is awful. I've read a bunch of things online today. What did it end up being 3 years with an option for a fourth or 4?
I think he's getting 4 years around 20 per, isn't he?
Yeah, it's 19 point whatever, but and it varies in each year. So yeah, it's 4 guaranteed. So looking at it, you got a guy here that can probably stabilize your outfield for maybe this year, next year, maybe become your DH 2 years after that. So I really like the deal. I'm going to be honest with you. If you couldn't get Chris Bryant, Schwarber was probably 1B, and especially how he performed. I mean, I think he had a streak in Washington last year where he hit like homers in 7 straight games.
No, he's a hitting machine, and he's got a great on base percentage.
He won't lose that.
He's a winner.
Yep.
He's been to the postseason countless times. He's got many postseason at bats, so he's not going to ever shrivel under the pressure of the postseason. That'll make him a locker room leader. In the middle of the lineup, I'm reading a stat right here. Schwarber carries obvious middle of the order power appeal with 81 home runs the last 3 seasons, 2 fewer than Bryce and 1 fewer than Freddie Freeman.
It's great.
And not in that paragraph that I just read was he probably missed a hell of a lot more games than those 2 guys. So when healthy, this guy is a hitting machine.
And it's interesting, and I don't know this off, I don't have the numbers in front of me. He led off for Washington some games last year.
No, he's projected as a leadoff hitter for us now.
Think of that. You got
that's where old school has an issue, but I'll let it go. I so much for speed at the top of the lineup, right? Because it doesn't matter because you don't steal bases when you get on, right? So why have a guy that's fast at the top of the lineup when they don't steal bases anymore in today's game? So, it's all about get on for the 3-run home run.
that's what it, and that drives me nuts. I coach baseball. I love baseball. I'm not a huge fan of the DH in the NL, but I get it. I'm kind of like, I love the strategic value behind, playing the pitcher and figuring out when to take him out. I hate that pitchers don't go past the 5th inning, 6th inning anymore. I'm with you, and I'm not into this, launch angle. It's all about the homer. I love small ball. I love the ability to run bases, go first or third.
What would Charlie Lau and Walt Riddiak be thinking with the launch angle when they taught the hitters to swing down on the ball? George Brett disciple, right?
Yeah.
There was not too many better than George Brett at hitting. And
not too many.
There was no launch angle with that guy.
Not with Tony Gwynn either.
No.
And, they probably hit you in the nuts with the bat. Like, they stop talking. Like, this is how we play baseball. We see a pitch to the outside in the shift. They would laugh at the shift. We'll just punch it into the hole. You want to play a shift on me later? But nobody. They just – what drives me nuts even more than anything is to watch those people open up and pull the whole day. They don't hit. They just – because they know what pays, and that's the hard part, right? Homers pay.
Yeah, especially with these tiny ballparks.
Oh, yeah, that too. But, yeah, in the end, Schwarber's a win. And he's a huge win for this team. Now, I got to see, going forward here, they look to have about 16 to 17 million left before they hit the luxury tax. I think luxury tax this year is 220, 230, something right in that range. And the Phillies have said they're willing to spend up that luxury tax. So they still have a little bit of wiggle room. That gave me some hope maybe for Bryant, but obviously, like you said, he's out. I don't think that money gets spent on Trevor Story. Do you?
I don't think so. Yeah, I was looking over the available starting pitching. I mean, who excites you? That
they're all gone.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nobody that excites you anymore.
No,
I mean, Julio Teheran, maybe take a flyer on him. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but he's probably a few mil. He's like your. Who did they have in years past that they took a flyer similar to that on? But yeah, very, very similar. Like he.
Well, it's ironic, and I don't want to put Teheran in this category, but former Pittsburgh Pirate, and then a World Series winner with Houston. We had him for a minute. He tore his hamstring, and we never re-signed him again. Charlie.
Yeah,
Morton.
He was awesome, and
Charlie Morton was Charlie Morton was a take a flyer guy. And when I saw that guy pitch, I'm like, my God, he's throwing 97 miles an hour, and his ball is dropping down and in.
I couldn't believe it.
And he was tremendous. And then he tore his hamstring, and we made no attempt to sign him back.
And he was so good.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, I'm not saying Julio Teheran's that guy. He has that kind of movement, but he doesn't have that kind of velocity anymore.
No. Looks like Michael Pineda's still out there.
Is Greinke still out there? Is he working?
Yeah,
he signed the professional pitcher.
I think he just signed a 1-year deal with KC to go back.
Go back home. Or
go
back where he started.
You got Danny Duffy. It looks like Cueto's still out there. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but to be honest, if I only have 16 mil to spend, I'm trying to find a way to fill that with an outfielder, and that's why I was still hopeful with Bryant, but I'm not good with Odubel Herrera.
No.
I'm just not. Like, I just need something else.
No, it's bad. I mean, and I said this last night. It's not as much as an indictment on Odubel as in your system. Yeah. I mean, listen, you could rip Odubel all you want, and I'm right up there with you. He didn't play a lot of last year because they didn't want the PR nightmare. They were praying Moniak, Hazley would do something. Guys that when they drafted, I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't like them at the draft. I mean, Moniak was drafted only because they were avoiding Boris clients.
Yeah.
And he just, that's the only reason they took him. And Hazley was a mistake totally. But, I just don't, if he wasn't so stupid on the base pass, if he wasn't so, takes horrible angles in the outfield. I can't stand the bat flips on routine fly balls.
No,
he just he doesn't have it. And you're gonna platoon him with Verling. Come on,
no,
the guy can't. The Verling can't even pull a ball.
No, I still have hope with we talked about it before, but a guy like Kevin Pillar, there's still some value, I think, in some positions out in
Yeah, but why? Clearly they're I don't know why they. Yeah, I agree with you with Pilar, but I don't. They showed their hand real early with Odubel.
They have,
and who was going to take Odubel away from them if they really wanted to explore a little longer?
Maybe Japan, but not any MLB.
Yeah,
team. It wasn't going to be like. I mean, there's some other guys I really like out there. I like Tommy Pham, but yeah, I don't know if he can play center. So it gets to the point that I think we're kind of just going to see fillers now. So with that said, before we get off the Phillies real fast, with all the moves, with the improvement in the bullpen, improvement potentially in left field, improvement in the lineup,
no.
Where do you have the Phillies? Are they contenders for a playoff spot?
Well, with the expanded roster, sure, but they're still behind the Mets and the Braves by miles, in my opinion.
Miles, okay, I might only.
Well, listen, every team is an injury away from something happening. That being said, I expect Nola to have a bounce back year.
I do.
I hope Wheeler stays on this plane. I hope Ranger Suarez keeps moving forward. Awesome. So, it looks like our starting pitching is solid, and as Zach Eflin gets healthy, he was once our number 3.
Yep.
Kyle Gibson is a solid pitcher. So we have a solid rotation.
Yeah.
So, but the Mets really bolstered their starting rotation. It's like scary good. But it's a matter of staying healthy.
I agree. And I actually think the key of this team is Alec Baum. I think if you can find a way for that kid to actually rebound here and have a huge year, now you've taken a Didi or a Segura, maybe, and put them as a platoon middle infielder. Could Kingery help you out? I don't know, but
is Kingery even in our system anymore?
They invited him to as a non-tendered, so he has to earn a spot now. But yeah, it's I think Baum's big for this team this year. I think if you can find a way to get that kid hitting, I don't even need homers, and get that kid's mind right, I think you got a shot. I know they got a who's the guy at shortstop that they love that's in the system?
Bryson Stott.
Yeah, Stott. Yep. You might see him get an invite. Didi was
they're saying there's a legit competition between him and Didi.
I think there's a great competition.
The kid's 23 years old. It's like enough babying players.
I agree.
And it's not like he hasn't shown progress in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
So, but getting back to Baum, I was on a show with Mr. Smooth, Vance, Crew, and Tony last year, and we were talking Phillies, and I was on my own little island. They're like, "Where do you think Baum's going to hit?" I'm like, "He's maybe 6th, 7th." And they're like, "No, he'll be." And then Vance, I love Vance, and Vance knows as much about sports as anyone I've met.
Yeah.
But he said, "No, he's the best hitter on the team. He'll be hitting 3rd." I'm like, "There's no way he's the best hitter on the team." He's got an inside-out swing from day one. Even his rookie year when he was impressive, he never hit the ball really hard. A lot of flares to right field, an occasional pull to left center. He does not have the bat speed, and I think he's overpowered in the major leagues right now. So I don't know if that kid's going to turn it around offensively.
Yeah, so he's Wichita State, I think, if I remember right.
Correct.
Which, they breed, talent for the MLB.
You have aluminum bats, which are a lot lighter than the wooden bats.
Hunter, you got great points there. But he was hitting, and you said they were flares, but at times they were contact. They weren't hard contact.
No, he hit a couple. He has opposite field pop because he has an opposite field swing.
So what I was getting at is,
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. But I was just saying his hand-eye is there. That's hard to teach. You can develop, I hate to bring it up with guys but Didi was never a power hitter. Brady Anderson back even, 10 years ago that we thought never power. Those things can come if you're able to make the contact. I'm not saying Baum can turn into a 40 home run hitter. No, I don't want him to. But he has the tools to make contact. That I do think he can get a little bit more. He's not going to be they always rate these hitters with these double-digit comparisons. Like a 90-tool hitter is like a great hitter. Wander Franco-ish. I could see him as 75, 70. Like if we could get him up there and be gap power.
Well, that goes back to your statement earlier, not comparing him. That's a bad when you referenced Anderson and a young Didi. Didi has a beautiful swing.
He does.
Brady Anderson had a beautiful swing, despite the steroid, clear steroid usage when he went from like 18 to 50 home runs. He had a nice swing. Baum has an inside-out swing.
So DJ LeMahieu has an inside-out swing. He led an AL in hitting a few years ago.
He's a big man, though. Baum's a big kid too. He's got Baum's a big kid too. He hasn't filled out. His body hasn't filled out yet.
He has to fill out. Yep.
I got you. But unfortunately, part of the equation with him is his defense.
Oh, it's terrible.
And
that's what kills me. I know.
Right. So, and it's not like he sets the world on fire at first base either if you DH Hoskins.
Reese, yeah.
So, it's interesting. That I was disappointed to see Chapman go to Toronto, put it that way.
I was. Did you see that what they wanted from us? I saw a few.
I assume they wanted.
It was a haul.
Yeah, they wanted they obviously wanted Baum. They probably wanted our top 3 prospects. They probably
wanted a Bell.
Stott, a Bell, and Painter, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's our top 3 prospects. You can't do it.
You can't.
No. For a 217 hitter, he's a great glove, but he's an inconsistent.
Oh, he's Gold Glove. Yeah,
he's a fantastic glove. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's 30 home run hitter, but great glove, 30 home runs. I can't keep him my top 4 players. I just can't.
No.
And to a team that has been so deprived of talent in the minor league system, I couldn't. But hey, we got a few minutes left, and I got to hit the Flyers. And I know you got to hit the Flyers, and I just got to ask you. We're moving on, and I got the news today. I think it was today it came out. We're having a Claude Giroux appreciation night, right? Friday?
Well, it's Friday because I know his 1,000th game is tomorrow.
Oh, maybe it's tomorrow then.
So, you have to.
Friday, I get my days.
Yeah, that's okay. But you have to honor that. It's such a anticlimactic, bittersweet, whatever the term you want to use.
Yeah, they're on the road Friday. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. You're going to honor a guy for his 1,000th game, which you should, just to essentially trade him because it's inevitable.
It's got to go. It's Monday is the deadline, right?
Yeah, he played. I was factoring this in months ago. He had. I think he has 2 games left after he gets his 1,000th game in. There's 2 more games before the trade deadline, so he could play 1,002 games for the Flyers before they deal him.
Yeah, you're right. And so does he make it through Sunday? They got a game Sunday, or is he out after Friday?
Honestly, I think
is he a deadline trade? I think
that's
where he is.
Yeah, I think, believe it or not, every minute of every day counts with the cap. So, and hockey is so, with the hard cap, everyone's so financially strapped. You almost have to wait last second because it's like you don't want to pay anyone that extra penny for a couple extra games prior to the trade deadline. But and like we just referenced, they've waited this long, if anything, so he could play 1,000 games as a Flyer. And then you just hope you get a boatload for him.
Yeah, and even, you know what, I'll be honest with you, and Tony checking in. What's up, T? As always, we love
hello, boss.
The leader of the pack. Yeah, love hearing from you. Hey, my man hit a 7-1. I mean, a 7 parlay last night in his basketball DFS, basketball parlay picks. This is a guy that knows this stuff. If you're not paying attention to the jigsaw and to the, Win Daily Sports, because I check in with him and the Ghost almost daily on Win Daily. You guys got to check it out. His daily, low value player hits every day, and I'm always playing it. And T, we're definitely loving you checking in. Thank you. Obviously, look, I'm telling you the truth. Giroux has to go, and Giroux has to go for him. And he's given all Claude Giroux, honestly, is probably one of my top 5 favorite Flyers of all time. I could probably even be convinced top 3. there's always been times, did he wear the C right? Did he do this right? Did he play? But he showed up every night.
Yeah.
He put on the pads. He put on the skates. He tied them up. He didn't make excuses. You never heard him in the media, asking for this or taking a day off because of that. The guy was just durable. He was likable. We could argue about performance at times, but I think some of his 2 best years have actually happened in these 2 past seasons. When the and he hasn't had the best teams around him. And I think for anything, if I could trade Claude Giroux today, and I hope they do it, I pray that they do it. I hope he goes out to Colorado, Dan.
I think he is. Did you see the move Colorado made last night?
I did, and that's why I think I'm praying.
They cleared by getting rid of Jost. They got rid of they got a guy back in Sturm that was like $2 million less. So I think they're clearing some salary for a Giroux move. I think.
I think so too, and I think he can fit. He might be third liner right there, right?
Listen, he whatever line he's on, he's the best faceoff man in hockey, at least the top 3 faceoff man in hockey.
Always, right.
He plays power play, penalty kill. He's going to get rejuvenated on whatever team he goes. When you're 34 years old and you get traded to a Stanley Cup contender after being with this direct for 3 years, you're all of a sudden 25 again. So I think he will get. I think he will help any team he goes to. Now you got it. To me, I just hope you can get a Bowen Byram from Colorado in return.
Oh,
Do
you think you can? Because my only thing is what Drew's 34.
Well, listen. To me, you get a top prospect and you get an active roster guy for him.
Yeah,
and even like a draft pick.
Oh, I mean, draft.
Listen, if you compare what I'm trying to think, who was it last year? Was it? It wasn't Foligno, was it? I was. There was.
He went some. He
was it Nick? Was it Nick Foligno that got a nice haul?
He did get a nice haul, but there was someone else too.
I'm drawing a blank. Was he with Detroit? No,
I'm with you because I'm trying to remember last year. We still had that year. Tampa won last year, but we still had. They made a few moves, but it was mainly they got back the big 3.
Yeah,
so it wasn't them.
No, but I forgot who was. There was a player that was moved. I think.
Yeah,
I'm just drawing. I'm having a complete brain cramp.
That's hard.
When the trade was made, I was like, "Holy crap!" But they got like a first round pick, a player back, and like a top prospect for him, and he clearly was on a decline. I don't know if it was Nick Foligno. I'm thinking it might be, but of course, once we end the broadcast, it'll pop in.
Yeah. Of course, that's how it works. Yeah.
But the bottom line is, there's precedent for Giroux to get that type of haul back.
Seth Jones was the one that he got like a haul too. And now he's not offensive, but he got like a first round pick and stuff. But yeah, it might have been Foligno. There was something, yeah. But I mean, there's precedence. I don't disagree with you. I just don't know where else he'll go if you don't. I mean, Toronto's not a team that's.
Well, there's talk. The Rangers. There's talk. Tampa Bay. There's
Tampa,
Florida.
Yeah. Oh, Florida could definitely. Yeah, but you get that kind of guy from Florida. We'll see. But if this is it, and I think we both agree this is it, I'm good with it. There's a lot of people that want to see him end in orange and black.
No. First of all, I don't think. I don't know what to think for his own legacy. It'll be like, if he somehow stays here, like
it's a waste.
Do we praise him for his loyalty, or do you want to win a cup?
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Ray Bourque left Boston after 22 years and went to Colorado and won a cup. So,
and weren't we cheering for Timo that year?
Timo went to Chicago and won a cup. Yeah. So, Yeah, you got to do it. And part of your legacy for this team is to get him assets,
It has to be.
help your squad out by getting him assets.
It has to be. Listen, the Flyers have actually been pretty competitive the past 2 weeks, and I know you've been.
They just can't close out the games.
They can't.
That loss
Montreal?
against Montreal was one of the worst losses I've ever seen.
Oh,
I actually laughed, I was so disgusted. If that makes sense.
I'm in there with you. You know what it just tells me? See you, Yao. I think we were all there anyway, and I know he has some relationship with the front office, but dude, your audition has been awful, and it just we need to just start new next year. I hope they don't bring him back. I don't know where you're at.
You mean as far as
Hey, coach.
Oh no. I was thinking my guy that I want. It's funny. I say this in jest. You know how everyone wants Tocchet, they want Recchi. I want a former Flyer. I want Rob Zettler as my coach next year.
Oh, wow.
He is the right-hand man in Tampa Bay.
Oh, what's he like? Special teams?
He's he's head of defenseman, but he's Tampa Bay's assistant coach. So he's part of a winning culture.
Yeah.
And I guess he's a former Flyer. He had a cup of coffee here years and years ago. We're the number 2 before they retired Mark Howell's jersey. But that's what I would like to see. I want a coach from a winning program.
I do too. I'm tired of plucking from retreads or from the college system that had no NHL experience. I want winners
or personality, for God's sake.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Don't get me. And how's he doing right now with the Kraken?
When they signed him, I was like, what on earth are they doing?
You know what? When you sign someone to an expansion team, you are giving them 3 years free reign. But we'll see. We'll see. That's all I'll say. It only might be 2 there.
So I believe I was correct. I think Nick Foligno was the correct answer. I believe they got him from Toronto. Got him from Colorado for.
And didn't they fail first round last year?
Oh yeah, they
was it Boston or Montreal?
No, Edmonton lost to Winnipeg, I think, in a first round.
No, but Toronto. You said Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. Yeah, they both. No, I was thinking. I know Edmonton failed too. Yeah, they were both disappointments.
Yeah. I had some future monies on Toronto this year. I know it's silly, but NHL is funny where you can be like the Washington Capitals and lose forever. It just takes 1 year. 1 year that
I put future money on a 3-peat.
Did you? That's not bad. They're just so good, man. They are so good.
And a 3-peat is something to be motivated for.
It is. You got a good point. And what are they sitting second right now in their division?
Yeah, they go back and forth to Florida.
Yeah,
what a division! What a division! We lose Boston and gain Carolina.
Yeah. Carolina. So, and I mean, they're just awesome too. This division is it's going to be a great NHL playoffs. And with that, I'll give 5 minutes left because you know what? Hour and a half was worth it tonight. Dan, I got to ask you, big tournament tipping off tomorrow. I mean, it tipped off really potentially last night and tonight with the playing games, but really tomorrow starts the madness. And it's St. Paddy's Day. The last time this was on, maybe 2 times ago, I don't know, but I'm going to say last time it was on St. Paddy's Day, I went out to Vegas. I said, we got to go out there. We got to just do this and live it. I'll say we came back a little disappointed. Maybe the weather was just not as nice as we thought, and I didn't feel the energy in the casinos as much as I thought. And today, I could probably get the same thing from Atlantic City. I'm not going there, but I'm just saying this matchup of St. Paddy's Day versus the tournament is going to be wild tomorrow. North Carolina plays at 4:00. You got some really good games going on. Villanova plays Friday. They're early in the afternoon. There's just going to be a lot of fun and excitement over this whole weekend. It brings out the best in sports. It's the best tournament. You can actually, draw up. Nobody else is going to beat it. Even if NCAA football goes to 16 teams, it doesn't matter. This is it. This is the wildness. This is the madness. This is when you get teams from who knows where that makes these upsets. And I got to ask you, Do you have any teams out there that you're eyeing up and like, hey, this one's going to make a great, huge upset in the first round?
In the first round, yeah, I guess I have Rutgers beating Alabama.
I love it. And Rutgers is one of my plays tonight, and they're looking like a decent play right now going to the halftime of Notre Dame. I agree with you. I think Alabama's a complete fraud. Now, the hard part is you can't bet them in Jersey, where I'm from.
Oh, well, that's a shame, man.
Yeah, that's hard. But yeah,
with your knowledge, not to be able to bet is like it's like terrible.
I'll just cross the bridge. It's okay. Anyway, you know what? I'm going to play South Dakota State, number 13 seed versus Providence of 4. I think Providence is the biggest fraud in this entire tournament.
I have South Dakota State winning that game too.
Oh, great. And look, if you just look at the spreads, South Dakota State is only a 2-point underdog. Here's the beauty of South Dakota State. They've won 21 in a row coming into this tournament, 30-4 overall. They're best in the nation in effective field goal percentage at 59.7%. They are the number one three-point shooting team in the nation at 44.2%. They're actually aggressive on defense. They let up a lot, but they're fourth in the nation in steal percentage. Look, if they don't get the steal, they let up the dunk. That's okay. They'll come back and hit the three. They won. And in the end, Providence is a tough team to handicap. Yeah, they've had a very good year. But like I said, I think they've been fraudulent all year. When Nova went to play them up in the Dunkin' Donuts Center this year in early, I think it was late February, actually. Nova was like seeded, ranked like 12th or 13th. Providence was 4th. Nova was a 5-point favorite in Providence, and they covered. Providence, I think the bettors know. In Ken Pom ranking, they're number 48 overall, and they're a 4 seed. Somehow the NCAA says they're a top 16 team. Ken Pom says they're 48. They should be more towards somewhere like a 12 seed. I just can't. It's South Dakota State. It's the Jackrabbits. Mark it, book it, bet it. And Dan, I'm glad you're on that side too.
Yeah, and I guess other minor upsets I have Miami.
I like it.
I have
Davidson's another one I like.
I have Davidson, which kills me because my favorite coach is Tom Izzo. I usually and before Tom Izzo, the great Quinn Snyder.
Oh, Quinn, yeah, out in Utah.
When he was with Missouri, right? I always pick Quinn Snyder's team to win a round or two.
Yeah.
Great coach.
And it's interesting you target Michigan State. Me and you talked about an Iowa-Michigan State game a couple weeks ago, where Michigan State struggles is versus very good shooting teams. They can play a game and win in the 50s and 60s. They can't win in the 70s. Davidson's a tough matchup. They score.
All right, so we're on board now. Let me ask you this question: who do you have as your first number 1 seed exiting?
So I'm going to run a little poll at the bottom, but it's Baylor, but it's not Baylor by much. They have too many injuries. They're just not well-rounded, but I will tell you, watch out, because Kansas, to me, is a team that's very vulnerable. I think they're in a real struggle in the 8-9 game, but potentially definitely in that other game in the Sweet 16. I'm huge on Iowa. I think Iowa, I talked about it earlier. At one point, I was worried. I wasn't sure they were that good. And then I switched. And I said they were Big Ten favorites to win that tournament. And they did. Got them at plus 600 to win that tournament. Iowa will beat Kansas in a matchup.
Okay.
If it even gets to that. But I'll say Baylor right now.
I have Baylor losing to UCLA.
UCLA, and that's Sweet 16 then. Very similar. The same round.
And Iowa plays Kansas in the Sweet 16.
Yep. So very similar.
They could go out together is what you're saying.
Yeah. I just could see, I know it's crazy, but I could see Baylor losing in the Sweet 16. I mean, the second round. They have UNC.
They play South. Who are we talking about? Kansas?
Baylor will play UNC, the Tar Heels. And
the
Tar Heels, yeah, they got Mondo Baycott, who's a player of the year in the ACC. Well, second to the Wake Forest kid. But Carolina could. The problem with Carolina is they're a sieve on defense. Baylor's great on defense. You know, when you see those teams match up, normally the better defensive team wins. So, but potentially I do see Baylor losing to Carolina.
Okay.
More than likely, I'm with you. UCLA is way underseeded. Way underseeded. They will beat Baylor. Now, Gonzaga, I do think gets through. And then the other number one seed that we talked about, Arizona, I do think they both have an easier path. So it's Baylor or Kansas.
I have Gonzaga, Arizona finals.
I think those are good picks. And, you know, the funny story about that, if that does happen, is that Arizona's coach is a Gonzaga disciple. He came from Mark Few's staff, and they were not expected to do much this year. So I will say I don't think Gonzaga wins this tournament. This is not – Gonzaga had a better team last year. I've watched a lot of Gonzaga. I just don't think this is one of their better teams. Drew Timme has actually regressed a little bit. I think Chet Holmgren is good. Probably will finish as a top 3 player in the NBA draft. But he's just thin, and I just think Gonzaga is there to be had. For my money, looking at the odds on the bottom of the screen, Arizona is a good play. I do like what you're talking about. Kentucky is a very good play, plus 850. Outside of that, you could play a little money on Nova just because they're seasoned. They're a very veteran team, but it's UCLA, as you spoke earlier, and Texas Tech are my 2 long shots that I think have a really good shot to win
I
this
do
tournament.
like Texas Tech.
Texas Tech is a team that has almost 5 fifth-year starters. They are just so well-rounded.
I have them facing Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, and I think they can win. And I think Texas Tech is a team I'm putting money on to win it at 2,200. I think Texas Tech is really, really
Thoughts
good.
on Tennessee?
So my thoughts on Tennessee are they're an excellent home team. And I understand they won the SEC tournament. Tennessee has also beat 4 teams that ranked in the top 10 this year in Kentucky, Arizona. I forget the other 2. One might have been Gonzaga, but they had 4 great wins. Villanova smoked them. And now they're up against Villanova 2 seed. And everybody's like, no, don't worry about it. You know, Tennessee, they won the SEC. Villanova beat them by 18. I think it was 71-53. Villanova has the recipe to beat them. They're inside out. Tennessee is physical, but they don't shoot very well. If they go up against a Villanova team and their guards are hitting, they're not getting past that game. I think Tennessee is actually a little overrated right now just because they won the SEC.
Okay.
I would not bet them. So who you got winning? Gonzaga, Arizona?
I have Gonzaga.
And I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. They're the most talented team in this tournament. I actually want them to win, but I just don't think they will.
Listen, this I think it's been since 2008. We haven't seen all 4 number 1s make it to the Final Four.
You're right.
So my bracket has 3 of the 4 making it to the Final Four. Kentucky being the odd team.
Yeah, it's a 2 seed. I love their center down low, Oscar, the big O, Ty Washington at guard. It's a different Calipari team than years past. And I think someone said it to me earlier. The last time this tournament was finished in New Orleans, I think that's where they're at this year, Kentucky tore down the Nets.
It is
so. Yeah, it's a little parallel to maybe it is a Cal year, being John Calipari. All right, Dan, that wraps up an excellent hour and a half here, man. I really appreciate it.
That went fast.
It goes so fast. Appreciate Tony checking in. Everyone else that threw a few comments out there, I appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get a few up. We were just ripping it. You know, it's all about a good Philly 444 talk, and we did it tonight. And Dan, I appreciate your knowledge, your insight, everything you brought tonight. You're the man. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right. As always, we are Heat Ratio Live. We're part of the Heat Ratio Sports Network. Coming here every Wednesday night, just talking what we talk. You get involved because we love hearing from everybody out there. Until next week, we're Philly 444 plus more. I'm Dave Gloeckner. That's Dan Green. Thanks for joining in.